Saints Buccaneers betting preview. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. Saints Buccaneers on Sunday at 3 o'clock. What are we going to do? How are we going to bet this one? So I'm not going to lie, I'm a little gun shy after last week. So the Bears game was a complete disaster betting, and for the first time this year. And usually, if the Saints games don't go well, but we understand the game script, we know what was going to happen, we kind of called it, we kind of saw the things through, and it just didn't work out on the scoreboard. It's kind of whatever, can't win every game. But the Bears game was a complete anomaly. A complete anomaly. I mean, we couldn't stop the run. We stopped the pass. Rattler didn't run at all. We couldn't run at all. Kendra Miller tears his ACL. It was just everything that could go wrong did go wrong. So we're going to try and have a bounce back, all right? Crazy game. Crazy spread, I should say, with this game. So real quick, let's take a look at it. So the bet splits are good for the Saints. 80% of bets, so tickets, 79% of tickets are on the Bucs. But 65% of the money are on the Saints, which is what you want to see. You want to see more money than tickets. You want to see that kind of a split. And then the odds board is all over the place, honestly. This game opened 6 or 6.5, depends on, where you were, what you were doing. For this, we'll say 6. And it's moved all the way down to 3.5 at a bunch of shops. So 3.5 is not the rogue number anymore. At one point, it was the rogue number. It was only at ESPN Bet. But now it's all over the place. But you still have some 4.5s out there, which is kind of crazy. I mean, there's a significant difference between 3.5 and 4.5. It's not like 4.5 and 5.5 where it's it's not that big of a deal. 3.5 and 4.5 is a big deal. So the fact that they're out there at the same time is interesting. It's just interesting in general that 3.5s are out there. I don't know why. Look, and this is when you want to bet on a team. When do you want to buy stocks? When do you want to buy crypto? When do you want to buy whatever? Whenever everyone's selling. You want to buy it when everybody is saying, who the hell would buy this garbage? Who would buy this trash? Is when you want to buy everything. That's the opportunity, right? You do not want to buy it when everyone's like, this is the best thing ever. You got to buy this. You got to buy Bitcoin. You got to buy Apple stock. You got to buy Nvidia. You got to sell it, mortgage your house and buy Cardano. Do what you got to do. That's the last time. That is not when you want to buy, right? So the Saints are there. The Saints are at the point to where even I am like, how the hell are the Saints going to win this game? How the hell are the Saints going to keep this competitive? When this line opened up, me and my betting group all said, we were all like, 6.5? This should be like 10. The Buccaneers are going to destroy us. How in the... Did no one else watch Chicago? Right? But part of me on the other shoulder is going, hey, partner. That's exactly when you want... That's exactly when you want to buy in on the Saints, right? That's exactly when you want to play contrarian. Now, you may say, James, I don't care about betting. Bottom line. I don't care about betting. It's not my thing. Well, what you do care about, if you're watching this video more than likely, is the New Orleans Saints. And what this is telling you is that the New Orleans Saints are going to keep this within the number. And if they keep this within the number, let's say it's a 4-point or less game, that means the Saints are going to have ample opportunity to win this game, which is hard to imagine, okay? Hard to imagine. I just saw NOF Network's game predictions or whatever. Every single one of them picked the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm sure if you put on ESPN, every single person is going to pick the Buccaneers. If you go to the Buccaneers YouTube, everyone's picking the Buccaneers. There's not a single person that's going to pick the New Orleans Saints. And yet, this number is going from 6 to 3.5. So something's fishy. Okay? Something ain't adding up with this. So let's take a look here. So, real quick on the side. You have to, look. If you want to say, I believe the Buccaneers is the low watermark for the Buccaneers, and you're sitting here saying, I think 3.5 is a steal, or I think 3 is a steal, or whatever, I wouldn't blame you for taking the Buccaneers -3 or 3.5. And I wouldn't blame you for taking the Saints at plus 4.5. So if you're trying to make a bet on this, the only thing I can recommend is the Saints at 4.5 or higher. 4.5, 5, 5.5, whatever. 4.5 looks like the best number you can get in the market. And then if you want to take the Bucs at 3.5 or buy it down to 3 or however you want to play, that could be the move too. But that's what the spread is telling you. Now, let's take a look at the defense. All right, let's look at the Bucs defense. Well, let's look at the Bucs injury report first. So this is from yesterday. This is from Friday. So out Chris Godwin, Luke Haggard, Bucky Irving, Hassan Reddick. Vita Vea is questionable. Everyone else is playing. Full participation from everyone else that was on the injury report. Baker was limited Friday. He was full Thursday. Baker will play. Is he 100%? Probably not. We're all day to day. So let's look at the defense for the Bucs. This is we're trying to figure out how the Saints are going to get after the Buccaneers if they can. The Bucs are the 14th overall defense. The Bucs are they're 19th against the pass and 7th against the run. Okay. Now, if we go to defense versus receiver, you can look at like how they do against wide receiver ones, whatever. So if we go DVOA for wide receiver ones, the Bucs are 6th. So they're pretty good against wide receiver ones. They are 8th against wide receiver 2. Pretty good. They are 24th against wide receiver 3s. Okay, not that great. Let's see here. Against tight ends, they are pretty bad against tight ends. They're 32, 31, 30, 29, 28, 27. They're 26th against tight ends, okay? So that kind of helps us understand how the Saints could possibly have success. I think if they do have success, it's got to be an under, right? The Saints aren't going to get into a shootout with the Bucs, I wouldn't think. So the Saints usually have success running the football. That's usually how they find their success, but the Bucs are good against the run. Obviously, Vita Vea's health plays into that. But let's look at Alvin Kamara. So no Kendra Miller. So Alvin's rush attempts are going to get a big bump. All right, so 13.5. They were chilling at like 10.5 and 11.5. 12.5 is probably a play. Like 12.5 seems low. If Alvin, I don't think Devin Neal is just going to jump in and all of a sudden have 10 carries. He may get 4 to 6, but I don't think it's going to be that many carries like Kendra was getting. If the Saints are up, Alvin's going to run the football a ton. And if the Saints are, if they can, they will run the football. So Alvin 12.5 could be worth a look. His rushing yards is 43.5, 44.5, 45.5, depends on where you shop. If you look at Devin Neal, so Devin Neal's, none of his props are up here yet. If you look at Taysom Hill, his rush attempts are 4.5. Okay, the thought being there that they got to figure out a way to run the football to sign Alvin Kamara. Could Taysom be that guy? Possibly. I wouldn't be touching that with a 10-foot pole though. Spencer Rattler, he ran for 12 yards last week, 2 for 12, which was the lowest maybe in his entire career. Actually, absolutely shocking that he didn't run. I would think he gets back to it. I would think he gets back to running. I would just go back to the well here and play Spencer Rattler's rushing over 3.5 seems light. So I'd take his 3.5 rushing over. His yards low, pretty low again because they were over 20 going into the Bears game. Now they drop them down, so you're getting a bit of a discount here. So 15.5, 16.5 is probably worth a play. I wouldn't play 17.5, but you know what I like? The longest rush at 9.5 yards. If Rattler escapes, he's got the ability to pick it up. He had, against the Patriots, we played this, he had 2 rushes for 9 yards. Okay, so, how's that even happen, right? So this is right in his territory when he takes off. I would play his rush attempts and his longest rush is what I would look at for Rattler here. His pass attempts, are they on here? 33.5 at Bet Rivers, 33.5 at DraftKings as well. If the game is close, it's hard to imagine Rattler's just letting it rip. If they're playing from behind, he's going to. But, if you look at that's a game script thing. If we look at Chris Olave, So Chris Olave receptions, 5.5. I mean, he's Rattler's favorite target, and he had 2 touchdowns last week. So 5.5 seems low. The Bucs are good against wide receiver 1s and wide receiver 2, but it's one of those things where it's like if Rattler's going to throw, he only throws to 3 guys. Like he only throws to Olave, Shaheed, Juwan Johnson, and if he has to, Alvin Kamara. But there's just not that much volume going anywhere else. So if you tell me Rattler throws the ball 35 times, you would think a majority of this is going to go to Chris Olave. So, I mean, he's almost just a blind play at 5.5, honestly. Yards, I don't really like messing with the yards. Yards are just too... reception is just way more of a way to get out of script, I think. Rashid Shaheed. Let's talk about Devon Vele. Again, we hear all week long, no, we're going to get Vele involved. No, we're going to get Vele. He's got to get catches. He's got to be more involved in the game plan, whatever. And yet again, he's not involved at all. I almost feel like I have to play his touchdowns every single week until it hits out of spite. I almost feel like I have to play 15-1 for a touchdown for Devon Vele because if I played it last week. If it hits this week, I'm going to be miserable. All right, so do I have to play it every single week for the rest of my life? I don't know. We'll see. Rashid Shaheed is at 4.5. I wouldn't touch that. Kind of a lot for him. He's not really a volume guy. So if you like Shaheed, maybe you take his longest reception at 18.5. That does seem kind of low. Maybe you're thinking, if they're targeting, they target him downfield or whatever. But I wouldn't touch 4.5. That seems like a lot. And then Juwan Johnson. Let's go to Juwan. So we talked about Juwan, or we talked about the Buccaneers being bad against tight ends. Juwan Johnson was, with his neck, was limited Wednesday, limited Thursday, full Friday. So we got to assume he's healthy. Alvin was still limited on Friday with an ankle. So that's something else you got to factor in with Alvin. There's only 2 running backs on the roster Sunday. It is Alvin Kamara and Devin Neal. So if Alvin's banged up and he's not playing, it's Devin Neal and Taysom Hill. So maybe just stay away from the rush attempts because there's a variable with the injuries. But Juwan, it seems like this might be a game where he can get after it. If the Buccaneers are good against receivers but bad against tight ends, maybe this is where Spencer goes back to him. Todd Bowles is one of the more creative blitzers in the NFL. If Rattler is getting blitzed and he has to get the ball out quick and he has to dump it off and they're playing man or whatever, maybe it's a situation where Juwan can get some catches. So I like the idea of Juwan at 3.5. It is expensive. $140 at FanDuel, by far the best you can get. So if you're shopping, go ahead and get involved there. Remember, if you think you got it, if you think Juwan's going to be in for a big day, then don't be afraid to ladder him. Ladder him up. And when I say ladder, people ask me about this all the time. So if you're playing his 3.5, then you go to his receptions. You go to Juwan Johnson. Let's say you put a unit. People ask me this all the time too. What is a unit? A unit is different for everybody. A unit is your average bet size. So let's say your unit is $50. $50 is a bet. Let's say you take $50 and put it on Juwan Johnson over 3.5. You take $50 and put it on 4. You take $50 and put it on 5. And then you cut it in half and go 25 on 6, 25 on 7, 25 on 8 maybe, and then you probably go 10 on 9, 10 on 10. It's like an example of a ladder of how you would do it. And that way you're really only trying to get if you get over 3.5, over 4.5, over 5.5, you're in the money. And then the rest is just lanyap. So that's how I would do it. But Juwan, this could be a game for him. As far as the Buccaneers, how do you even attack this with the injuries, right? How do you even attack what's going on? If like Baker is someone who I would think, Baker running. Like Baker running around would be obvious. Like him running would be a way to get at us. But then you remember he was injured, right? He's got the knee problem, the oblique problem, the ankle. Like, how healthy is Baker? How much does he want to take off and run? Once he starts playing in the game, does it really matter? I don't know. But if all things were equal, I would be all over Baker rushing for 3.5 attempts and all over Baker's longest rush of 9.5 yards. I like both of those, but it depends on how healthy he is. If you're at the game or watching pregame, I would wait and watch. If Baker looks spry, if he looks okay, if he's moving around good, maybe you take the 9.5. Maybe you take the 3.5 on the rush attempts. Maybe you get involved that way. But it's hard to. When you have an injury like that, you just don't know what is going on in the player's mind. You just don't know how they're going to attack the game. You don't know if they are hurting and you know they're hesitant or whatever. So keep that in mind. But I would lean towards Baker's rush attempts and Baker's longest rush. The rest of the team, what are you supposed to do? Right? Everyone's hurt. Like, how are you supposed to attack this? How are you supposed to attack the rest of this? Do you play Tez Johnson? Like, because he seems to kind of be involved a little bit more. Do you take Tez Johnson touchdowns because he scored recently? It seems like a lottery to me. It seems like something I wouldn't want to be involved in. So I'd probably stay away from that. Maybe Kate Otten. Maybe you get involved in some Kate Otten action. 3.5, 165 at MGM seems decent. Tight ends kind of can take advantage of the style of defense where the Saints want to play bend, don't break. They want to sit back, keep everything in front of them. Maybe that's where you look, especially if Baker doesn't have a lot of other options to go to. If Baker doesn't have these guys, he doesn't have Chris Godwin out there. He doesn't have obviously Mike Evans out there. He doesn't have these players. Igbuka is a full participant, so let's just pretend he's healthy. If Igbuka is healthy, then maybe you think he's going to take advantage of a relatively weak Saints secondary. So maybe you think 5.5 is cheap. But again, how healthy is he? I don't know. Do you want to get involved with do you want to get involved with the receivers who potentially could be banged up? Right? I don't know. And then if you think the Bucs are going to blow the Saints out, if you think they're going to blow them out, which the line says otherwise, but if you think the Bucs are going to blow the Saints out, why would the Bucs have to throw the football at a high volume? All right, so this is kind of anti-game script, unless you think this game's going to be closely contested or the Saints are up. So that's kind of how I would look at this one. This is a very weird game to bet because of the injuries. Tampa is coming in so unknown with so many variables and so many different players. It's hard to run to the window and put your hard-earned money up when there's this much unknown, right? So something to think about. But I think lean-wise, we're in the right direction with a lot of this stuff. The Spencer Rattler rush attempts is one thing. The Juwan Johnson reception is something else that I would look at. Those feel pretty good. Like, those feel low variance. Those feel like pretty solid leans, pretty solid bets. All right, ladies and gentlemen, get on in there. See what you can do. Win some money. Hopefully, we bounce back this week. The Bears game was brutal, so hopefully we got to bounce back. Let me know what you end up on. Good luck. Cashing tickets is what it's all about. My the man Brent Musburger coined that term, and man, is it true. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. Good luck. I'll see you in the next video.